Welcome. Please tell us where you are tuning in from today. What city, what country are you tuning in from? Welcome, everybody. If you can let us know in the comments section below where you're tuning in from, that would be wonderful. We'll start in about a minute. We got a few people from Nigeria here. Got someone from Turkey as well. It's pretty good. More people from Nigeria. Northern Cyprus. It's good. Welcome everybody. Let's begin. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from, because I understand time zones are different. My name is Bester Godfrey, Canadian Immigration Specialist at Tofino Immigration Consulting. At Tofino Immigration, we help make Canada your new home. Now, as an immigration consultant, one of the questions I get often is, what's the best province to live in Canada? The best province of destination for immigrants? And that question is it's a bit challenging because it depends on different things. So today we have a special guest. The Olu of Canada is going to help us answer this question so we can put it to rest once and for all. So I'm going to get our guests, so invite a friend, invite a neighbor, and I hope we're able to answer this question for you today so we can put it to rest. All right, let's go get our guest. Hello,
Hi,
how's it going?
very good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. It's probably good afternoon for you. Where are you tuning in from?
I am tuning in from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan this afternoon. I just came into Saskatoon a few minutes ago, so
Good.
it is 12:03 p.m. right now.
Welcome, welcome. It's good to have you on here. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me.
That's good. So one of the questions I get very often is where's the best part of Canada to live, right? And the question is, it looks super easy, but then it is not, because it's a bit complicated because Canada is a huge country. But before we dive right into that, I have a few leading questions for you then, I guess. So right now you're in Saskatchewan. First,
Right.
how did you come to Canada? Which pathway did you use when you were immigrating here?
Big question, and thank you so much for that. I came into Canada in 2015, August of 2015 precisely.
Okay.
I originally came as an international student.
Okay.
So I came for my master's program, did my first degree in Nigeria, came here
Okay.
for my master's program at the University of Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
I think the decision was driven by the fact that the education opportunities in Canada is limitless. A lot of universities that are reputable. The standard of education is well known across the world and all that. So initially, I came into Canada as an international student, and that was primarily the reason why I went to Saskatchewan.
That's awesome. I came as an international student myself, but I did like part of my high school here in
Okay.
in the Okanagan, Vernon, British Columbia. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the area at all.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I know. That's in British
yeah,
Columbia. Yeah.
and then I did my university. What did you end up studying for masters?
So I did a Master of Arts in Sociology and Social Policy
Nice.
at the University of Saskatchewan. I majored on the criminal justice policies and reforms within the Canadian criminal justice system.
Yeah, I noticed you're very passionate about policies and
Yeah,
stuff like that. This is
right.
where this is coming from. Okay. All right, that's good. And so far, what's your experience been like so far in Saskatchewan? How you like it?
I think it's been great. Aside the very
Okay.
very I think Saskatchewan has been great. I've lived here largely in the last 6 years. I get to travel, have families in other provinces, travel for work and all that. but I kind of feel at home anytime I get back to Saskatchewan. I live in Saskatchewan, which is the biggest city in the province. But even though it's a big city, it's still a very, very communal city. I used to tell people when I came 6 years ago, if I see a person of color who is new in the city for the first time, I can tell that you just got into the city. Community is getting bigger and bigger by the day now. But that's just how it is. People are always willing to help out here. People are very supportive. The university community has been very supportive. I kind of like it here if you have to take out the winter, but even the winter you get used to it over the years and all that. Yeah.
Is there a big African community in Saskatoon where you live?
It is. Yeah. We have a very big African community. I was surprised even when I came 6 years ago. There was an African Student Association at the University of Saskatchewan. There was also a Nigerian Student Association, and there are also other countries, African countries, who have their own student association. And then in the community, there's also a Nigerian Saskatoon Association of Canada or something like that. But majorly an association of Nigerians living in the city. Even if you're not a student, people who came as permanent residents, people who are already citizens and all that. So I was surprised because when I was coming to Saskatchewan, I didn't even know how to pronounce the name of the province.
I know that's the
I was
challenge.
telling people that, I was heading to Canada and people were expecting, you were probably going to Ontario or Alberta or BC. And then when I said Saskatchewan, it was like, is that also in Canada? And, so for me to come here and even find out that there's a big African community, there's a big Nigerian community, it was a big surprise. But yeah, we have that out there.
That's good. Awesome. So the big question, because people are always asking what's the best province to live in, and it's challenging for me because Canada is a huge country, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like 10 million square kilometers, right? Which is a third of Africa's landmass, right?
Yeah.
So technically, then Canada is bigger than West Africa, which is about 5 million square kilometers, right? So someone could ask you, oh, Bess, your cousin lives in Toronto. How come you guys never hang out all the time? I'm like, you don't even understand how big this country is. You can't drive it for sure.
No.
And if you were to drive it, you're probably on the road for a week. And if you were to fly, that's like a very long flight as well, 5 hours. And so wherever there's different factors that affect where you go, and wherever you live, you have to kind of make it home, right? So what factors, in your opinion, then should be considered when choosing a province of destination?
Right. Like you said, one thing I tell people when they ask me this question is that it's going to be based on the individual situation. When I was talking about choosing Saskatchewan initially, I did mention the reason why I came into to Saskatchewan was basically to study. So if someone wants to come to Canada and says, oh, because I am in Saskatchewan, they want to come to Saskatchewan, even if it's just for study, you do not know if your particular program is available at the University of Saskatchewan. So the number one thing to do would be to narrow down the reason why you're coming to Canada. What's the primary purpose of you coming into Canada? And, do your research in that area. However, there are things over the years that I've seen that a lot of people put into consideration when they're deciding a province of destination. I think worthy of note is also that if you're not coming through a location-specific program, let's say the Atlantic Immigrant Pilot Program or the Rural Northern Immigrant Pilot Program or a provincial nomination, then you can live anywhere in Canada, But over the years, what I've seen a lot of people put into consideration would be individual factors, like, say, for instance, number one, the education opportunities. When I was coming, I did a bit of research on the universities where my program of interest are being offered. Number two is, the availability of faculty members for my areas of research and all that. And that was what kind of guided my decision to go to the University of Saskatchewan then. So number one, people look at the educational opportunities, that are available, especially if you're coming as an international student. and you're coming to Canada to study. That's number one. The number two, for a lot of people that are coming as economic immigrants, they look at the economic opportunities in terms of availability of jobs,
Right.
you know, and especially whether um, jobs in their own specific profession is in demand in a particular province or a particular city or not. So people put that into consideration. There's a tool on the Government of Canada website where you can kind of like do an outlook of, you know, the places where a particular occupation is in demand in Canada. I think I once posted that on my page, and the website is, I think, www.bit.ly/explore your job. So if you go to that, it's going to take you to the Government of Canada website where you can explore the prospect of different occupations and where they are in demand. So that's one of the things that people put into consideration. The next one is people also look at the cost of living. If you're coming into Canada as an immigrant, as a newcomer, part of the things that's advisable to put into consideration is the cost of living, because we know for sure that some provinces and some cities are more expensive than others. So it's like comparing the cost of, you know, apartments and housing in somewhere like Ontario or say Toronto City with somewhere like Saskatchewan City. It's a big difference. So if
Right.
that is going to be a consideration for you, it would be a personal decision to make, but it's part of the things that people put into consideration as well, the cost of living.
Just
Yes.
a minor interruption there, sir, about that. The website that you stated, some people are asking about the website. So if after this live, you could put it up on a story, people will probably be able to check it out.
Right.
So you were talking about cost of living. Between Saskatchewan and Regina, which is more affordable in your opinion?
I would say it's about the same thing. So the only difference is that Regina is the administrative capital of the province. Saskatchewan looks like the business capital of the province. In terms of the population, it's just a little bit different. So I think in terms of the cost of living, it's about the same in both cities. Housing, you know, other costs, car insurance, health insurance, and all that are basically the same thing in both cities. So it's probably just going to be what you're looking for in terms of maybe job opportunities. If you'd like to work with the government, for instance, you'll probably find more of that in Regina than in Saskatchewan.
Awesome. So you were stating the fact that so far we talked about the educational opportunities, where to live, cost of living. What else should people consider before choosing a province of destination?
Right. I think one other thing I've also had a lot of people, you know, consider and put into consideration is the weather. As, you know, interesting as that may sound, you know, it's one thing a lot of people put into consideration. However, the one thing I tell people is that almost everywhere in Canada is cold, you know, except British Columbia. That's where you can say, you know, comparatively, the weather is still better over there compared to, you know, many other places. But almost everywhere in Canada is cold, but we get by easily. So that's one thing to also put into consideration.
Yeah, like you got to dress for the weather. Like right there in your place, you're wearing a sweater. My place, I'm wearing a jacket, for example. We're still indoors, but we still dress warm to stay warm, right? So you just have to dress for the weather. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So you just have to dress for the weather. And if you're not, you know, staying outside for a long time, you know, it's not like you get frozen in your house. You know, there's heat in the house, there's heat in the car. If you're taking public transport, there's heat in the public transport and all that. So people get by easily with that. I think the other thing a lot of people also put into consideration is the availability or the proximity of families and friends in the city they are moving to. If you're coming to Canada for the first time, you know, it helps if you already have people on ground that can help you integrate into the city or the community you're moving to. So a lot of people make that decision when they're coming in for the first time, especially as economic immigrants. They move to places where they have family and friends, and then from there they can now make the decision of other places to move to. One other thing that I think a lot of people also put into consideration, especially for people in regulated professions, like say the legal profession, for instance, is the licensing requirements. Because, one thing I tell people is that Canada is a country with many countries in it. The way they do things, a lot of things in British Columbia is different from how it is done in Saskatchewan, for instance. So people also...
Or Quebec.
Or Quebec, for instance. So people also put that into consideration. Right. They do the research on, how easy is it to, get licensed or go through the licensing exam for their particular profession. And they also put that into consideration. So if you look at this, you see, like we said earlier, that it's going to be individual reasons. It's going to be what you're looking at. And a lot of research would have to go into that for you to come up with a final decision of the destination you're heading to in Canada.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the factors to consider, but I still feel like some people might still be a little confused. They know the factors they need to consider, but they don't really know for sure how to make that choice. So I'm going to quiz you a little bit, right? By asking, in your own opinion, because this is going to be opinionated, right? From your point of view, of course, the best province, and I'm going to talk about some of these factors we just discussed. Yeah. So,
am I allowed to be biased a bit and say Saskatchewan?
Of course. That's the point. That's the point, right? That's why we have this conversation, because you can say, for you it's Saskatchewan. For me, it's always British Columbia, for example, right? Yeah. So it really just depends on the individual, and you will get mixed responses based on the bias, right? I think what really, for me anyhow, I think the first province you immigrate to is kind of like home, right? And so for you, you're choosing Saskatchewan. I'm always going to be choosing British Columbia. It doesn't matter what anybody tells me, right? So it's just the way it is. But in your opinion, what is the best province for jobs, good jobs in demand, in your opinion?
In my opinion, for jobs in demand, I would say Ontario. Ontario appears to be the economic capital of Canada. There are lots of job opportunities there, especially in certain professions that are in demand. The tech industry, the finance industry, the healthcare industry, you find a lot of these opportunities in Ontario. And that's why, when you look at the statistics of the provinces that people are moving to on a year-by-year basis, Ontario is always top on that list. A lot of new immigrants in Canada.
And Ontario is also pretty huge as well. So
yes.
I tried driving from Winnipeg one time to Toronto, and I think we were on the road for 24 hours.
It's a long journey.
Ontario is just huge, right? It's definitely bigger than Nigeria for people who are trying to compare. British Columbia is about the size of Nigeria, but Ontario is just massive. 24 hours to get from Winnipeg to Toronto, and I was just shocked, right?
That's a long time.
Yeah. So how about the best province? Again, this is all your opinion, which is fine. What is the best province for the most affordable cost of living?
I would say if you're looking at affordable cost of living, you're probably looking at provinces like Saskatchewan, especially the two provinces in the prairies, that's Saskatchewan and Manitoba, or the 4 provinces in Atlantic Canada. That's Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Prince Edward Island. If cost of living is a primary consideration for you when you're choosing the province of destination, the cost of living in places like Ontario and British Columbia is way higher than the other provinces I just mentioned.
Yeah, but of course, we're talking about cost of living. People come in with settlement funds, right? $13,000. And if you were living downtown Toronto, obviously you're going to burn that faster than you would if you were living in Saskatoon, right? So, but again, even if it's a little more affordable for you in Prince Edward Island and you don't find work there.
Exactly.
Then, or I even think some of those provinces, they pay a little more taxes too, right? Because the younger population are moving to the hub, Toronto, Ontario itself, and some of these major cities. So that means there's less young people available to work and contribute to the economic purse, right?
Right.
Meaning they have to charge more taxes to be able to afford the benefits that they're used to enjoying, like the free healthcare and the
Right.
education and stuff. So yes, the cost of living is lower, but if you end up paying a little bit of more tax, then it doesn't really. You gotta have to balance this stuff out, I guess, right?
Exactly.
Right.
I
Okay.
think one province that has been able to balance that well a little bit is Alberta.
Right.
The economic opportunities in Alberta is not, so bad compared to other surrounding provinces like Saskatchewan and
Right.
British Columbia and all that. And also the tax in Alberta is still, considerably lower than these other surrounding provinces.
Well, I went to university in Alberta. I think times are changing, Olu. Times are changing.
Right.
I went to school here. I did a lot of different internships at different oil and gas companies. That's how I was able to, afford some of my education, right?
Mhm.
And these are different times, I think. Because Alberta is really tied to the oil and gas industry. And right now the oil and gas industry it's just been suffering for at least 5 years in a major recession, right? There are no more major oil and gas jobs here. So yes, the taxes are a little lower, but if you can't find work, it doesn't really matter about the taxes because you can't be able to work. And I'm almost I can almost dare and say I'm not sure that those oil and gas jobs are coming back.
I think times are changing. The future of jobs is also changing. The future of energy production is also changing.
Right.
It would be very, very difficult for those times to honestly come back. I think people are moving away from what traditional energy and oil used to be into renewable energy, and that is going to have a very, very big effect on the economy of the province of Alberta.
Yeah, Alberta has not been able to get the Keystone XL pipeline approved to the United States because they just blocked that, and Alberta is even struggling to get this pipeline all the way to the east to Quebec, and Quebec doesn't want it to happen because Quebec thinks the energy from Alberta is what's the translation? It's dirty. It's dirty energy because Quebec they have clean energy through the Hydro-Quebec through the dams and stuff, right? So I think Alberta it's a struggle, in my opinion, for the future for them because they've been really focused on oil. Just the way the Nigerian economy is, we really focus on oil and we don't really diversify as much. And so as oil prices continue to tank, Alberta needs radical solutions at this point to be able to overcome the struggles, the economic struggles. So more younger people are moving from Alberta to British Columbia or to Ontario because the market is a little more stable and a little more diversified. So just for precision there, in case people are wondering, because everybody wants to come to Alberta, but we want to make sure that they have the right information because that's what we have in this conversation, right?
Right.
So another question then, best province for the big money, high salaries. What do you think?
High salaries, I think I'll still go with Ontario. Because you have, a lot of the corporations and big corporations and their head offices in Toronto City specifically, because Ontario is still very large. If you're thinking of Ontario and you're thinking of the big money, then you are not saying you want to move to, let's say, the Waterloo region, for instance. It's probably going to be Toronto City, the big six, like we call it, where things are happening, where life is 24 hours, except now that, with the pandemic, there's a lot of restrictions and all that. But keep in mind, like someone just said in the comment section, that with high salaries also come high cost of living.
Of course.
So a lot of people, by the time you balance that out, then at the end of the day, you'd see that maybe there's not so much difference, when you earn big and you pay so much and then you have so little at the end of the day.
But you be living a life, though. You be in Toronto, where Drake lives, right?
Right.
It's good. I know people in the Waterloo region. There's a few universities there, like Wilfrid Laurier and the University of Waterloo, of course. And I think some people still make good money there, right? We'll be posting this video. Someone was asking if you can post this. We're posting this on IGTV, and Olu would also be sharing it on this page as well. So tell me, because you came here as a student, and I almost feel like you already have a bias, because you came into Saskatchewan first, and I came into British Columbia first. So everybody is going to have their own opinion. But in terms of study, which is the best province of destination for study? And now we're talking about, we're going to split it into two. We're going to talk about the cost of study, and we're going to talk about the immigration opportunities after you're done school.
Okay.
So which one is the best in your opinion?
So if I'm to combine those two factors, I would say Atlantic Canada would probably be the best place for that. The reason why I'm saying that is that the cost of living is low. You also find out that a lot of the more affordable, and I know affordable is very relative, but comparatively with other designated learning institutions in Canada, you probably find something that more affordable in Atlantic Canada. They also, in addition to the popular federal immigration routes, express entry, and the likes, they also have the Atlantic Immigrant Pilot Program, which is, targeted towards, retaining a lot of international students that come into the province or the region to study and all that. And each of these provinces also still have their own provincial nominee program, which gives you almost like 3 different categories of immigration opportunities for as an international student in Atlantic Canada.
Yeah, I think most provinces in Canada, though, there's almost a way to transfer into permanent residence. So I wouldn't really be too concerned about that per se. As long as the institution you're going to is a designated learning institute, you should be okay to change the status to permanent residence. People that are asking if they can ask questions, we'll be taking questions randomly from the comments section. So just post a question if you have any. But I have lots of questions to go through with Olu as well. So we want to make sure we put this question to rest. What is the best province to live in Canada today? So if you have any other random question, you can post it, and we'll see if we have the time to take some of the questions as well. And this will be saved. This will be saved on IGTV and on YouTube as well, so you can go back and you can rewatch it. So you've been to a few provinces, obviously, because you said you have some family and some friends across the country. And I'll see now if you're actually being honest in this conversation. In all the places you've been in Canada, which is the most beautiful?
Honestly, I'll say British Columbia. I think the name speaks for itself. Beautiful British Columbia. That's the nickname for the province of British Columbia. I think British Columbia is beautiful. I think it's a very, very beautiful province. And also, compared to Ontario, it's not that populated and, not so many people. The natural ambience and the natural environment in British Columbia is so beautiful.
Right. I saw pictures of you on BC ferries. You probably heading to Victoria and Nanaimo. Where were you headed?
Yeah. I was coming from Victoria to Vancouver.
Right. It's that's ferry ride is it's really beautiful. If you do that during the sunset, you would just absolutely love it. You would never go back to Saskatchewan. You would never go back to your old ways. you would just move once and for all, right? And the weather there too is nice in the Vancouver area. It rarely would it snow in the winter, but it rains a lot, right? So if people don't like the rain, if you don't like the rain, it might not be the best place for you. But I'll take rain over snow any day. Yeah. Right.
And I think for a lot of immigrants, especially from African countries, we are used to the rain. We'll take the rain.
We have the rainy season. We have the dry season, right? So it's just a lot better to visit, at least, even if when you come to Canada, even if you lived in Saskatchewan or Prince Edward Island, at least once book a flight and visit British Columbia, because it is. So another slogan is the best place on earth. That's what they say. I call it Mother Nature's playground, right? But it's just visited at least one time. All right, let me see if I can take at least one question. I'm not sure if someone commented and said raising kids in such metropolis is high risk. They're probably speaking about Toronto. I'll probably just take this and say, look, some of these countries where immigrants are coming from are more high risk than Toronto will ever be. Okay, so I want you to compare that, where you're coming from compared to Toronto. Toronto, if you with your kids are not getting kidnapped, right? And you're safe. You don't need bodyguards for your kids. You don't need to hire the entire police force to protect your family.
Mm-hmm.
In Canada, you're just truly free, right? I was talking to a client one time, and I showed them outside, and I said, hey, I don't have any fence around my house.
Mm-hmm.
There's no fence. It's just a lawn, right?
Right.
And it was just like a shock. I was like, yeah, it's really rare to see a house here that is fenced up and fenced up, and you have security and you have all of that stuff. Even some of the rich people, they just live like regular people. So
Right.
it's a bit different. But I also understand that, living in a major city like Toronto, it's a different vibe if you have kids, little kids, compared to living in the Waterloo region, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So of course the outskirts of a major city is going to be more affordable. It's going to be quieter for you
Right.
too, right? And just different. It's more of a family-oriented feel compared to living in downtown Toronto. It's almost like Toronto is like mini New York, right? It's like York, really. I mean,
Right.
there's a region there called York, right? That's what it used to be, I think. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't say it's a risk in terms of danger for security or life.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, of course, you'd be paying more if you live in a major city like Vancouver or Toronto. But the
Right.
further you go away from there, you pay less and you enjoy, I guess, a different quality of life with children. And quality of life, it depends for everybody as well, right? So people want the noise of Toronto and big Montreal city, and they want to party every weekend. Some people just want nature and they want to be quiet, right? So that's what I would say the difference is. It's not like Toronto is a little more risky.
I think just to add to that, one of the things I think I've told a lot of people, in the past is that even if you want to stay in Ontario and you think the Toronto life is too busy, it's too expensive for you, there are surrounding cities in the greater Toronto area that you can explore. I think about 15 or thereabout of them that you can stay. Even if you're working in Toronto City, you can the transportation system is good. There are people who commute and do that on a daily basis and work or live in the surrounding cities and work in Toronto.
Okay, so I got a new question. I think you should take this. I have my own opinion about it, of course. The question is, which provinces are less in terms of race? I guess just which provinces are less racist? I guess that's the question. What are your thoughts on that?
That's going to be a big one to answer. I think as people of color, we there's a need to also be conscious of what racism means. In Canada, I think the public perception has always been that Canada is different from the US. I disagree with that slightly. The elements of racism are available in Canada as well. People of color, visible minorities face different types of racism in the workplace and all that. It may be subtle and not something that's as confrontational as what we have in neighboring United States or other parts of the world. But it's the elements of microaggression, micro racism, and all that is still very much there. But I think in almost all parts of Canada, it's not as open as what you would see in the United States. So in terms of which one is less among the provinces, it's going to be very, very difficult to make that comparison.
I think this is my opinion, right? Because we're here to share our opinions.
Yeah.
I think it's not a country that is racist per se, but people are racist, right?
Right.
And I've met people that are shitty. I've met people that are really nice, regardless of where they come from, right? If we look at, say, so I'm from Nigeria, you're from Nigeria as well.
Yes.
And even in Nigeria itself, we have tribalism, right? And it's the same spirit, right? It doesn't really change. It's the same. There's difference in people. And as long as people are different, there's always going to be that comparison of, I'm better than you or whatever it is. So that exists in Nigeria itself, right? And then you come to Canada, and of course, it's no longer tribalism itself. It is now, I'm different from you. But I've met fantastic people. I've lived here for 13 years, and I don't say I've had any major incident that is a racist incident, right? And people themselves, they're racist. It's just the way life is. And even in your home country, there's people that argue about differences about religion. They argue about speaking a different dialects. They argue about different things. So it's just human nature. It's not really about Canada or Nigeria or Ghana. It's just people are different, and as long as there's differences of people, it's always going to happen that way. So I don't think you should be considering necessarily, oh, which province is less racist to immigrate to Canada. You should just immigrate and find your feet and survive. And some people too, they quickly tag everything to racism. For example, a Caucasian, a white person could just be really curious about where you're really from, or they really want to know about where you're from. Honestly, they want to know. It's not like you're trying to be condescending. They just don't know how to ask you the question, and we have to be kind to them too, because some of them don't really know how to ask, or how to ask because they're curious, right?
Right.
And some people just say it's racism. And for another example would be, we as a people struggle with time management, for example, right? You know, Canadians want you to be there at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock is 8 o'clock. Like, this life was started right on the dot, right? When it was due. And Nigerians, we kind of stroll into work, 15 minutes later, 30 minutes later. And after a while, you start getting this attitude from your employer, and you say they're racist. But I think, reflect a little bit, right? Like, see what you're doing and see if it's matching with the culture of the place.
Right.
And we're a very multicultural society, and we try and be accommodating to everybody, but you still want to at least check yourself first, see if there's anything you've not picked up yet. Right. And before you scream out racism, I'm not saying some people are not racist. I'm just saying, before you scream out racism, at least check what you're doing and see if it's matching. If there's anything you need to improve on, sure. And then maybe you can raise up your hand and see if people are racist. Right. And if it's a job, for example, you can always find another job or make a formal complaint.
Right. And I think that's one thing I like, just to buttress what you just said. Canada is not a perfect country, but no, you can see the genuine effort, being made to balance things out, even in the workplace. If you have, serious concern, formal and, framework for you to make your complaints known, and that's one of the things I appreciate about the country. And that's also one thing that has been really, really helpful as a person of color in the workplace.
Yeah, it's good. All right, let's move on to one of your posts that you made a while ago, and you were talking about minimum wage in Canada, right? And of course, in every province is different. We pay different wages per hour, right? And some people are a little more motivated to move to a particular province, because they pay more, without even considering if they spend more money there. They just see that the salary is a little higher. Like Nunavut's being $16 an hour, for example, and Alberta being $15. And I think the lowest provinces are probably Manitoba, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick,
Saskatchewan,
right? Right, about $11 or so. So now, some people just look at that and they're like, I'm immigrating to Nunavut. But Nunavut's, the weather there is punishing. It's unforgiving, right? So you can't just up and move to Nunavut because of $16 an hour. And face it, Olu, to be honest, we want a better life, yeah? Right. Immigrants want a better. So we don't necessarily immigrate here for minimum wage jobs.
No.
Right? So I don't think it's fair to move to a province because of the wage per se, because we're not here to make the minimum anyway. So it doesn't really matter, right? So in your opinion, what industries do you see are high paying? Where are the high paying jobs these days in Canada? The ones in demand now, the ones you think are going to be in demand in the future? And do we need PhDs for this type of jobs? Because Nigerians, they want masters, they want PhDs, they want more degrees at the thermometer. So we want to get this out of the way. Where's the money? Show me the money, Olu. Where's the money?
That's a big one. I'm going to start with the last question you touched on whether we need a PhD for these high-paying jobs.
Right.
My straightforward answer to that would be no. And the reason why I'm saying that is that Canada is a skill-based economy. You find out that there is more emphasis and priority on what you can do in the workplace, the skills you possess, your technical ability, how you can use that to support the performance and work in your workplace, more than the highest level of education you have. That's one thing I have personally noticed. And that's one thing a lot of people need to keep in mind. And in terms of the industry that are, the high-paying industries and all that, I think every industry at some point, depending on the level of entry, has, well-paying and very big salaries. But there are some occupations that we can see the trends are rising and are going to be in demand for a very long time in Canada. I stumbled on a report sometimes, I think in September or October 2020, and I read it. They did a forecast of the industries that are going to be in high demand, that are going to be well-paying in Canada, and I think about 10 of them. And top on the list is the tech industry. Canada's tech industry is booming right now. There are lots of, companies, tech companies from the US and San Francisco and all that that are moving into Canada, in Ontario, in Toronto City, in Quebec, and a lot of other places. So that looks like, like some people would say, tech is the new oil. And that looks like an industry that is really, really promising right now and would be that way for a long time to come, at least from my own personal projection and all that as well. So that's one thing. And in terms of the tech industry, you're looking at, opportunities such as being a software engineer, a web developer, a web designer and all that in those areas. And I think there was also an article I saw on CBC that talked about, how there's now a brain drain of tech talents in US moving massively to Canada, especially when you put in mind the opportunities that are available in Canada for people to transition from temporary residents to permanent residents as well. So if I'm to make a ranking, the tech industry would be, the number one on my own list, based on some things I've seen and the projections that are available out there. In addition to that, there are also other industries that are very, very lucrative. I think one of the professions that was also mentioned in the report I saw was industrial electrician. So you find out that there's a lot of construction works going on in Canada right now, new buildings, the housing market, even with the pandemic, is, thriving. New housings are being constructed because the population is growing as a result of, new immigrants and all that. So they did mention that, the industrial electrician profession would be in demand for a long time and it's well paying. Also, in addition to that would be the health industry. When you're talking about Canada has shortage of health professionals, doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, and all that, occupational therapists and all that. And the pandemic, if there's anything the pandemic has done, it has further complicated that. You see a lot of people that have been on the wait list for surgery and all that as a result of pandemic right now. That is, the wait time is getting longer. Opportunities would continue to be available in that profession. And then when you look at also the blue collar profession, where, even with just the 2-year diploma, you're good to go, you probably get something. Then you're looking at areas such as, being a welder, those things that's handiworks that you can do and get things done easily. You can start something of your own, you can, opportunities would also be there in those places as well. In addition,
We have some trouble hearing you. The reception from where you're calling from is a bit weird. It breaks in and out a little bit. I'm not sure if you're on Wi-Fi. Is it possible to switch to data?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. You were cutting out there for a bit, and I wasn't sure if it was the Wi-Fi. If you switch to data, that would be great.
Okay.
So, well, with the industries you've said so far, tech being at the top, and you don't need a PhD for that. That's for sure. Yeah. And then we also talked about construction, and we don't need a PhD for that as well. So my first message to Nigerians, I guess, is a lot of them, when they want to immigrate, when they message me as a consultant, some say, "Oh, I want to come do a PhD," and I'm like, "Why? Like, why do you want to come do a PhD? What's going on, right?" And there's a few questions here about supply chain and construction. So I would say, for example, during the pandemic, a lot of people that lived in the hub, Toronto, they moved to the outskirts, and the real estate industry just skyrocketed, right?
Right.
Prices just went up. Same in Quebec as well. The prices for wood, for example, to construct these homes went up, doubled, tripled, right? People just complain because people are moving from the major city like Montreal and moving to the interior, right? Like Chaudet, Appalachia, or Bassett, whatever cities, whatever regions those are, right? So they're moving to the interior. Now, for people asking about what is the construction industry, what the construction industry is going to be like, right? Now, of course, with construction, you're building new homes, you're making new things. Canada is growing. Of course, construction is not going anywhere. You're always going to be building something new.
Right.
So that's not going to go out of style, and you definitely don't need the PhD for that. So none of you should message me and ask me about PhD anymore. I'm not interested. Okay? So you don't need that. You don't need it for that. And I made a post the other day, actually a few months ago, and I talked about a bus driver in Canada that made about 15 million naira. This is about, what, $50,000 a year, which is, for here, is not even the highest pay that you can make. And they made that in 1 year by just driving a bus, just like the BRT bus in Lagos, or the whatever bus, the transit bus, right? And they make that much money. You don't need a PhD for that. A simple high school diploma, a driver's license, and a good attitude, and you'll get that job, right? And people think they want to keep studying and studying and studying. That's why I keep saying you don't need all these degrees. So when I was working at an oil and gas firm, I was an intern there at the time. I was going to school, and my manager told me, he said, hey, because I was confused about if I should study, supply chain or study innovation and entrepreneurship. And he's like, honestly, Best, the day we hire you and you walk through that door, that's the day we stop caring about your degree.
Exactly.
And after that, all we care about is if you have the necessary skills to get the job done. Canada is skill-based. Like, it's not about the PhD. And we need to forget that. The reason why we do lots of PhDs from back home is because of the competition, the credential inflation. The more people that have a degree, the more you have to get better so you can separate yourself from the rest of the people. That's the reason. Yeah. And we don't have that here. Canada is the second largest country in the world, but we only have 37 million people. So the competition is not as stiff as Nigeria being a tenth of Canada with more than 200 million people. So let us get that straightened out so people are not, so you're not faked out by your degree and think it's going to save you when you get here, because quite frankly, we really don't care. We just care for the job.
And I think in addition to that, that's why, one of the things I've been telling people is that before you even come to Canada, make sure you have a career plan. What does that mean? You've done the research to look at the industries you want to go to. You've done your research to know what is obtainable in the industry. You're well prepared, you're well informed, and when you get into Canada, you can hit the ground running immediately. If you do not need a PhD for the industry you're going into, do your research and know the skills that are needed. Find out if you have the skills. Find out if you do not have the skills, how can you acquire or develop the skills. If it's just certifications that you need to do, if it's a short course you need to do, get on that as soon as possible.
And certification sometimes takes just a few months.
Yeah.
You're done. You're in the industry. And I just want to really, and if it seems like I'm beating this horse to death on the masters and the PhDs, because we really don't care about your PhD. It's just a matter of, maybe if you want to be a professor, in that you can even use a master's for. So let us not get faked out. Okay, so you've traveled, and for beauty, you said you like British Columbia, but when in the list of the factors that you were helping us with, you said where you talked about friends and family ties. How important is your network, family ties, friends, when you choose your province of destination?
I think it's important, especially as a new immigrant. If you move to a place where you have friends and family, it helps you with the integration faster. Okay. You especially if the friends and family are people that are always willing to help, they can provide you with information and guidance. They can share their experiences with you and make sure that you are well informed to avoid the mistakes they made in their own time. They can also support you, Canada, sometimes, like people say, it's a very, very lonely country because it's big. People are busy with their lives and all that. And it helps you to become well-grounded and also offer that social support for you if you move to a place where you have people. But keep in mind also that except you are moving to the same city, if you move to the same province, the person might, if you move to Saskatchewan, for instance, and I am in Saskatoon and you move to, say, Regina to Saskatoon is almost close to 3 hours of driving. So
Right.
it means we may not even see each other
For a long
in
time.
6 months, for a long time, or
Right.
even more than that. So that's one of the things to keep in mind.
Yeah, but then your parents are gonna call you and like, why have you not hung out with your cousin yet?
Right.
And you say, look, this is a different life here, right? It's super interesting. So another post that you made, and for those of you who haven't followed Olu yet, give him a follow because he really posts lots of interesting content about newcomer support, life in Canada. And just follow him, and I enjoy the contents on the page myself. So
Thank you.
you should follow. So now you made a very interesting post, and I quote, right? If you're coming to Saskatchewan to find a husband, hire me as a private investigator.
Right.
I will help you do the due diligence and let you know if the man is a married father of 3.
Right.
And my fees are pocket friendly.
Right.
All right. Tell me, Olu. I know you studied policy and stuff, but what's the market in Saskatchewan like? Why are you this, in quotes, private investigator? What's going on in Saskatchewan?
I think what is going on in Saskatchewan is not different from what is going on in all other provinces in Canada.
Well, you said Saskatchewan specifically,
yeah.
so we're gonna go with that.
The reason why I said this, this started as something like a banter on Clubhouse.
Okay.
We were having a session on Clubhouse, and people were saying, Toronto men are bad, don't date a Nigerian in Toronto and all that. And they said, you can go to Saskatchewan, and that's where, you can find good men and all that. And I was like, okay. Okay, we need to tread carefully here as well, because like you said, when we're talking about the issue of racism and all that, it's an individual thing.
Right.
I don't think a location would make somebody that probably treated a woman in the wrong way in Toronto, if they move to Saskatchewan, I don't think that would make any difference as well. So it started as a banter, and I was like, okay, because I am in Saskatchewan, I've lived in the province for about 6 years, I have information, I know people around. If you want to come to Saskatchewan just to find a husband or a partner and all that, please let me know. Let me help you do the due diligence. I would be more than glad to do that. And the reason why I said that is also that it's very, very difficult to see a single person immigrate to Saskatchewan, except, number one, they came to the province to study and they stayed back, or number two, they had families and friends here, or number three, they got a provincial nomination.
Have you heard of any cases where the man was married with a few kids but acted like he was single?
I'll skip that.
Skip that?
For that, I'll just skip that. But I think the important message there would just be that people need to do their due diligence when it comes to issues like that.
It seems like I'm dwelling on this question a lot, is because we're talking about the best province to immigrate to, of choice. And if there's something going on in Saskatchewan, we want to know about it. Yeah. So that's why I was asking you about the. I guess some of those men probably already logged off the platform now that we were talking. But at the end of the day, hire Olu, give him a call if you're moving to Saskatchewan, and if there's anybody you like there, be it male or female, Olu can help you investigate. This is what he does as his side business. So so give him a call. All right, so that's awesome. So now we talked about information. For me is currency. Okay, information is power. That's what we used to say as children. But for me, I just say information now is currency. That's the difference between you doing well or not doing well. Because when you know better, you do better, right? That's why we started the Canada Immigration Cafe series, so people can know more about life here in Canada from actual people that live here, right? So now, obviously everybody makes mistakes when you come to Canada. What do you wish you knew if before immigrating to Canada that you know now, of course?
Right. I think the big one would be the career plan I mentioned. When I was coming into Canada, the excitement of coming, leaving Nigeria and coming to Canada that I've been hearing about, for a long time was overshadows my preparation. I wasn't well prepared career-wise. I came into the system as an international student, transitioned into a PR, and on before I even started thinking of what do I need to do? What skills do I need? What industries do I need to get into? I've probably spent like 2 years in Canada by then. I wish I was more well prepared for that. I wish I had a solid career plan. I wished I did my due diligence and did my research to know the industries that I'm interested in and the skills that are available or that are required in the industry. I think that's one big thing I didn't do myself, and that I now tell people to, learn from my mistake and be well prepared, even before coming to Canada.
Awesome. And is this the biggest mistake you think you made?
I think the second biggest one was not moving to Canada earlier than I did.
It's good. It's good. For me, when I moved here, I I tell everybody, because for me it is important to understand the financial system. And when I got here, I went to one of the big banks, got a credit card for $1,000, and spent it, and I didn't pay it back on time. Right? So I let the interest accumulate. I didn't pay, and that wrecked my credit for the first few years that I was in Canada. It took me at least 5 years to build it back to an excellent credit, but it took forever. And it's just $1,000, which seems harmful, right? But at the end of the day, then it just it became a big deal, and I had to pay for that for many years, right? So I think people, when they come here, yes, get a credit card when you get here, so you can start building a credit. But it is not free money. You want to immediately, if you take $20 from it, pay it back, so you can start building that history. But it's not free money, so we want to be careful about that. So what you posted about the 3 P's of immigration: plan, process, and patience.
Right.
What is this about, and why is it important?
I think this also ties to being well prepared about Canada. I tell people Canadian immigration is quite procedural. Canada is probably one of the very few countries, if not the only country, where you can not say, I'm waking up on Monday, I want to be in Canada by Friday, as an example, because the immigration process itself, the requirements and all that are things you need to be well informed about to make informed choices. And that's why I tell people, number one, it's very, very important to have a plan. You plan ahead. For instance, if you want to come to Canada to study as an international student, let's say graduate program, there are times of the year when you have to submit your admission and then wait for a decision and then apply for your visa and all that. You're probably looking at 6 months to 1 year for this. So it's not something you wake up one day and want to get done immediately. Awesome. That's why it's very, very important. The second one is also that it's very, very important to do things the right way so that you do not get into trouble. And that's where the process is. Like I said, Canadian immigration is quite procedural. You want to follow things and do things the right way. You don't want to be desperate and fall into the wrong hands of, people that are not licensed immigration consultants that will sell you dreams because they just want to take your money. Exactly. And then the patience is very, very important, because if we look at the processing times for Canadian immigration, it is something that will test your patience.
Exactly.
In the past, I've seen, I think I made a post in the past that I said, one person told me that if Canadian immigration does not teach you patience, nothing else can teach you patience. It's something, the processing times are long, but it's worth it at the end of the day. That's why the 3 P's are very, very important. You have to plan, you have to follow the due process, and you have to be patient.
And I think that's super important too, because as an immigration consultant myself, sometimes I get phone calls of people who've lost a lot of money, lots of money, because they were desperate. So I think when you're patient, don't be desperate, because when you're desperate, you're vulnerable to fraud. You're vulnerable to falling into hands of people that sell you dreams. There's no immigration to Canada without work from your part.
Mhm.
The case I'm talking about here specifically, the person called me after they've lost like 10,000 US dollars. That's about 5 million naira because somebody
Wow.
told them during the pandemic that they can immigrate to Canada in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's desperation. And when you're that desperate, you fall for things like that. So we want to be
Right.
very careful.
Right.
For those of you who haven't followed Olu yet, please give him a follow. You will learn a lot from his page as well. If you need immigration help coming to Canada, shoot me a message. We can help you out as well. Although your page is really dedicated to lots of support newcomers, why did you decide to start newcomer support? Why? What inspired you to begin this kind of?
I think I just saw it as my own way of giving back to the community.
Wonderful.
When I came into Canada, a lot of people were very, very of help to me, and even people within the Nigerian community, from, getting around, getting my SIN, doing a Canadian resume, these things that I was not well prepared about coming from Nigeria, knowing how to do a rent. One of the things I made a mistake about when I was coming was paying for a 1-year lease right from outside Canada without even inspecting the house and all that. And then I got here and I saw that I could get, something better than that. I had to break the lease and all that.
Right.
So people were 100% very ready to be of help.
Yeah.
And then I took it upon myself to just pay that forward, share information with people, be of support and of help to people as much as I can myself too.
Love it. Thank you for being of support to the community as well. And so now you've done your master's. You're in Saskatchewan. You've done your master's in really into policies and stuff. What's next for you? What's your future goal? What do you want to accomplish next?
I think one of my big things is continue to impact the life and contribute to the life of Canadians through my professional work in policy and programs development. Continue to look for ways that we can make life better for everyone, immigrant, newcomers, Canadians of, different backgrounds and orientations as much as I can. And maybe in the future, run for public office too.
I'll be voting. If it's a federal office, I'll be voting for you, so you can count on my vote. That's nice. Well, any last words for potential immigrants and new immigrants? Do you have anything to tell them? Those that
I think the one thing I would just say to reiterate would be, the 3 P's: plan, patience, follow the due process. That's very, very important. It may take time. I tell people in Canada, we have more than 100 immigration programs. There's always something for everyone.
Right.
You just have to be patient, look at what you are eligible for, and take your time to go through the required process of getting that as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to come share your wealth of knowledge with us today. I hope people are inspired. I hope they give you a follow and learn some more from your page as well. Yeah. So thank you for taking the time. We hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the session and learned a lot from the Olu of Canada himself. Words of knowledge there. This session will be saved on IGTV and on YouTube as well. So go ahead and watch, share with your friends, share with your neighbors. You're gonna have a great time. And I hope we're able to put this question to rest of where's the best place to live in Canada, right? Because it really just depends on different factors that we discussed earlier. So go back and watch the video. It depends about jobs, if you know people in those provinces, cost of living and all that. So go back and rewatch and really take time to think about it and plan before you immigrate. If you have any questions about how to immigrate to Canada, contact me. My link is in the bio, and we'll be able to have a conversation about how to immigrate to Canada. And as I always tell everybody, Canada awaits you. So there's plenty here for everyone. Contact us. Thank you. Good night, and God bless.
Right.